Hey, everybody, welcome in. This is the Minority Report. and first of all, good morning, everybody. And here we are. Remember, every time I do this, it's always the same, pretty much the same loads, same rates. The only thing that changes is prices, cash balances, debt, price to book, financial ratios, efficiency, HODL, hash rate. What else? Number of rigs and all our other ratios. So let's see what happens this time around. And I am very well aware that the miners got clobbered over the summer. Let's see if there's any opportunities left in this whole space. Welcome to the Minority Report, and shout out to Patreon as well. You're my best virtual friend. James, proud Patreon subscriber from a rainy London. Thank you so much. Paddy Anglais, 91. Appreciate you. And let's jump into it. First of all, this is not financial advice. This is just a ton of ratios, a ton of data that's measured the same way each and every time. And let's talk about a little bit of a ratio here that many people talk about. This is the Bitcoin to miner multiple. I get the question all the time, how high will Bitcoin miners go? Well, if Bitcoin 2x's, say it's 65K now, it goes to 130K. What could the miners do? And the answer is on average a 4.75x. So if Bitcoin does a 2, miners do a 5. Again, we're waiting for that big extreme pump. Then the miners will go to the moon. If we don't get that pump, the miners will not. They will continue to languish. And we'll also look at other factors like dilution, which is a big one. Let's get into some on-chain stuff first of all. This is the Puell multiple. And you can see there's a whole bunch of different ways to assess Bitcoin miner sentiment, but one is to examine their earnings in relation to historical data. And this can be done using the Puell multiple, which measures current miner earnings against the yearly average from the previous year. And as of the latest data, the Puell multiple is hovering around 0.8, which means miners are earning 80% of what they were making on average over the past year. This is an improvement, but still, they're not doing as well as they used to in the old days. Now, let's see where we go from here. Again, I think a few weeks ago it was about 0.53, indicating miners were earning just over half of their previous year's average. So it's a very fascinating ratio to look at if you look at miners. Also, the hash keeps climbing, which also clobbers the miners. Even though earnings are down, there are no signs of miners leaving the network. In fact, Bitcoin's hash rate is the total computational power used to secure the network and has been steadily increasing, and the price has not. So price has not followed the hash, which it has done in traditional cycles. And this surge in hash rate indicates that more miners are entering the network, or existing miners are upgrading their equipment to compete for block rewards. I do believe, because I look at the efficiency and the effectiveness, I do believe old rigs are being shut down, but they're being replaced with new ones as well. And a final chart to show you how cutthroat the competition is. Sustained hash price declines indicate the increased miner competitiveness. As I've said since day one, it's a cutthroat business. Allocations matter. Never have more than 5% allocated to Bitcoin miners. So with that, let's get into it. And there's going to be a Bitcoin miner only playlist here after the video. And let's get into the math engine time. And again, this is our little computational box that just calculates everything the same way each and every time. Let's run through all the numbers that I look at. If you want to create your own ratio, you can take it. I've distilled all the data for you and focus on what you want to focus on. That is the key. And then I'll show you my results at the end as well. And there is a change. So first of all, the gains to 52-week high. Here we see CleanSpark and Bitfarms, both 106% amount of gains they need to get back to their all-time high, which is kind of staggering. Sometimes people like to buy things that are beaten down. And this is when you can generate most alpha if they return to the all-time high. But you have to take into account other factors as well, like dilution. RIOT, 99% of all-time high. Marathon, 86% of all-time high. Not 86% gains to all-time high. Sorry, I misspoke there for a second. Also, share dilution year to date. This is the important factor. Iris Energy has diluted 158.51% so far this year. CleanSpark, 41.57%. WULF, 38.26%. BTBT, 38%. Bitfarms, 36%. Sphere, 35%. HIVE, 35% as well. Everybody's hovering around that 35% to 40% mark, except for the big one that stands out there as well, the big exception. Let's look at the HODL bags. again, some of the top miners continue to stack Bitcoin. Marathon now have 27,000 Bitcoin. They eclipsed 25,000 not too long ago, and they bought about 2,000 more. RIOT, nearly 10,000. HUT, 9,000. CleanSpark, over 8,000 now. HIVE, 2,600. That's a big bag. 2,600 Bitcoin is approximately $150 million worth, if I'm not mistaken. Also, Bitcoin production in September 2024. Marathon winning 705 Bitcoin. CleanSpark just shy of 500, 494. RIOT, 412. IRIS, 347. Core Scientific, 345. Bitfarms, 217. And then the rest goes down. HUT, 85 at the bottom. HIVE, 112. Again, not much, but you have to benchmark this in terms of market capitalization to get a true meaning of exactly how effective and efficient the miners are. And we do that. So first of all, next, I should say, current hash rate. Marathon, 37,000. CleanSpark just hit 30,000 as well. RIOT, 23,000. Core Scientific, 21. IRIS, 20,000. HUT, 19,500. Etc., etc. So some of the big guys are really growing. Excuse me. Really growing very fast. Also, future hash rate. This is also shaken up a little bit. I think it's important to know where the puck is going to be. And Iris Energy has now the most aggressive plans to grow their hash. Growth of 90% up to 38,000. Bitfarms 86% and CleanSpark 85%. RIOT 72%. Now, in the past, you can see HIVE isn't growing very much at all. Marathon 40%. In the past, especially in the bear market, this was a very important statistic to me, and we'll see if it's still very important as we go forward. Also, brand new ratio. This is the dollars generated per mining rig, per ASIC miner per month. And this is really cool. Top of the list here is HIVE, $179.50 per rig per month. Marathon, $165. CleanSpark, $156. And then the rest fall right down. So focus on the big three there, because this is probably one of the most important ratios. And why is HIVE so strong, profitable? Well, for a couple of reasons. I think from my research is they keep a very high monthly average hash rate utilization above 98%, placing them among the top performers of North American public miners. They also operate in cooler climates, and they also have very low SG&A, sales and general and administrative expenses, which keeps the efficiency high. Again, like in life, control your burn. Most important thing you can ever do. Also, price to book and price to sales ratio. Not much here, but RIOT is winning this one. HIVE second, IRIS third, Bitfarms fourth, HUT fifth as we go forward. Cypher is the worst at about $9 down there as well. In addition, Bitcoin held as a percentage of market cap. HUT, the winner, nearly 44%. Marathon, 29%, call it 30% of their market cap is in Bitcoin HODL. HIVE, nearly 28%. RIOT, 20%. CleanSpark, 15.5%. So these, if Bitcoin does something like goes to 120, 130K, doubles, this will have a huge impact on the market capitalization as well. So imagine Bitcoin does double. That means all of the HODL bag will increase the market capitalization to basically all being Bitcoin if HUT remains the way it is. So it's interesting to look at. Also, this is my ratio, which has been key for me from day one, is the IA Production ROI Model. So it's production ROI over market cap. It's like a ratio on a ratio. HIVE wins 1.18%. IRIS number 2, 1.16%. Bitfarms number 3, 1.07%. CleanSpark number 4 is 0.95%. And again, this ratio has come crashing down. It used to be like 1.6, 2%, 2.6%. But because of the halving, it really has put the screws to the miners. So they're not making as much money at all by any stretch of the imagination as we go forward. Also, Bitcoin miner supply is at an all-time low. This is what I call the miner bags. It's never been so low. Despite the HODL, not much is actually being held by these miners at all, which is good news for Bitcoin, which means they don't have a lot to sell anymore as well, especially if the trend of hodling continues as we go forward. If you want a recap of all these videos in a Substack and podcast version, it's 10 cents a day for that. So thank you to the team behind me that makes all this possible every single day. Let's get into the conclusion. And again, you can take all the ratios you want, weight them accordingly, and see. First thing I always do, is take all the ratios, and this is just a glimpse of them, unweighted fashion, to see who wins. In an unweighted fashion, the best across the board is still CleanSpark at 79%. Number 2 is now HIVE at 74%, and number 3 is RIOT at 72%. However, this is where it gets a little bit twisty. This time, my weightings changed the order big time, and my weightings have not changed. It's the same since I was able to discover CleanSpark early, same exact weightings. And here you can see there is a shakeup, big shakeup. HIVE is now number 1 at 78%. CleanSpark, number 2, 77%. And Marathon, number 3 at 64%. Close behind Marathon is RIOT, 63%. And Cypher, 63% as well. And Iris, 63%. I mean, it's getting so tight. I've never seen such a tight compression with loaded scores from this miner model, which means the miners not only are facing extreme competition, but they're getting much more effective and efficient at using their capital and running their operations, cutting SG&A, etc. Very interesting to see how tight the ranking is. And again, the model has not changed, everybody. Let's look at where we are year-to-date charts. WULF, interestingly enough, is up 127.61%. A lot of talk about nuclear energy, and people love it. And WULF is doing very well. Iris, up 36% year-to-date. Cypher, 18.6%. CleanSpark, only 10.66%. Remember, CleanSpark had huge gainers in 2023. HUT, up 5%. BitDeer, down 8%. HIVE, down 23%. And RIOT, down nearly 40%. So, big shakeup there. I just remembered Marathon is missing from the list, but we know Marathon is somewhere in the middle of the range of those guys too. Let's talk about the winner for a second and look at some price predictions. So first of all, the winner is HIVE. Well done to HIVE. First time ever winning this analysis. Now, HIVE, what's going on? I covered why the cool areas, a lot of uptime, 98%, but they keep chipping away. They keep growing the revenue, and they keep surprising to the upside on earnings. And that positive earnings momentum has been very good for the stock. Also, analysts come out with a price target of 6.3. Some have it as high as $9, some as low as $5. But remember, it's trading at about $3 now. That means it could double if these analysts are correct. Remember my other ratio too. If Bitcoin doubles, these things could 4.75x. If history repeats, ladies and gentlemen. And let's look at second base CleanSpark. Again, off the throne. They've won this quite a while, but shout out to Matthew Schultz. Check 30 exahash. Check Bitcoin 67K. Check 98% uptime, which coincidentally is the same as HIVE, but I think HIVE is a tiny bit higher. Short interest, check. And they have 8,000 Bitcoin HODL. And what's also interesting is what Matthew pointed out here. There's been a mass exodus of miners to HPC. That's the AI compute stuff. Slingshot engaged. The HPC thing is very, very interesting because, as you know, they're up against ruthless competition, okay? If you want to play in this game, you're up against all the top hyperscalers, the Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, AWS, etc., etc. These are big, mean machines, and I know there's infinite demand for AI compute, but at the same time, it's going to be probably tricky to make money. So the miners that discovered they're not able to make good money Bitcoin mining, they're pivoting. And that leaves more for, if Matthew Schultz is correct, more for them. Slingshot engaged. Again, they focus on their knitting, which is one of the things I respect. And CleanSpark price targets, the average price target across all the analysts, is 21.88. You got BTIG, Wainwright, Cantor Fitzgerald, JP Morgan, Chardon, and Sanford Bernstein. The highest target is 30, lowest is 10.5, pretty much around where it is now at $12. By the way, both HIVE and CleanSpark have buy targets. Let's get into number 3. Third place is Marathon. Shout out to Marathon. They haven't been here in third place ever, if I recall correctly, but they have climbed up the charts and they've gotten a lot better at what they do. Now, let's look at Marathon price targets. Note the consensus on Marathon is a hold from 9 analysts, not a buy. And their average target is $20.71. So we'll see where this all goes. That was the monthly minority report. Again, it's been a tough time for the miners, but they need the Bitcoin price to pump for them to do well again. But there's been a big shakeup in the rankings. Hope you liked the video. Thank you all for coming. Have a good day, everybody. See you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.